What's up, y'all, and welcome back to the Michael Experience Podcast. I am your orator and originator, Michael, and these are my thoughts, my life, my way. Listen, this is just an extra for some of you all because I wanted to chime in because we've been on this journey together. That is the Michael experience, and you have been listening and learning, and I have accompanied you in your car and cleaning and whatever else you have going on. And so I wanted to give you just a little something extra as we kind of move through the series that are coming up. So, I've been very busy. I've been very busy. The podcast episodes, there's so much more to come. I'm talking about hard truths right now, which is really just about those things that, we feel like we shouldn't say, but because they are the truth, right? And I feel like the truth is the only thing that will truly set you free. You have to say it, and you have to say it in your way and in your words. And so that's what I did coming into this situation. And so anytime you are dealing with relationships and very deep relationships, you have friends of 10, 20 years, you have family members that you were once very close with, all the things, just in all the ways that you interact with people deeply, it can get very triggering and very jarring to navigate through the different changes that happen. Because in outgrowing people, sometimes you just really do outgrow people, and that's friends and that's family, that's everybody, and it's places and it's certain things. And I believe what we do sometimes to resist the change is that we hold on to the people because it was comfortable. And so while we're growing and progressing, we're holding ourselves back by holding on to what no longer serves us. And so I wanted to make sure that we talked about those things and honored those feelings in a very real way, because I'm not immune to it either. Like, I am not immune to it, and you will hear it through the rest of this series and a bunch of others that go on. I try to use myself as kind of like the catalyst for the conversations, because truly I have lived a life. I have lived a life. And so I wanted to make sure that we address those things. But I wanted to bring you to the last two episodes of the Hard Truth series, which is My Parents Are My Parents. And I did an episode about my father, and then I did an episode about my mom. And I know that can drudge up a lot of feelings just as individuals. If you're the child, you can feel a certain type of way, right? About what you expected to get from your parents, or what you got, but you wanted something different, or maybe you got what you felt like you wanted and then realized later on. I don't know. There's a myriad of things that can happen in this situation, but I feel like lessons are learned either way, right? You can either observe by doing, or by seeing, or just some things you shouldn't do as a result of what somebody else did do, and vice versa in some instances. Boy, that was a tongue twister. But truly, these episodes were very, very heartfelt. And I know it gets hard when we talk about our parents, because there's so much out there that makes us want to protect the you know the sanctity of what fatherhood is, what motherhood is, what parenthood is. And so there's something in us that wants to protect that fiercely, even when we know that there are certain things that maybe we shouldn't protect, but also things that we should really release as well. And so I wanted to make sure that I captured the experience in my way, because I felt so many ways about my parents. And my father and I don't have a relationship, and I had to see him as a man in order to see him at all. And then my mom was just a myriad of emotions that I didn't even know how to place, because on one hand, yeah, there were some things that were just not right at the time, or didn't feel right at that particular time, and we can debate right thing to do, wrong thing to do, what you should give your kids and what you shouldn't. It's all subjective at some point, but there were just things that I felt like I missed out on, and that but there are also some things that I felt like I learned through the trial and error process that she was having. And so either way, I got the lesson, but the feeling that happens and the real emotions that come with it is what you're left to deal with as you move forward. So I wanted to talk about that. So here's the beautiful thing. So if you've been like, oh, I started it and I couldn't finish it, how could somebody talk about their parents this way or something like that, and it made you feel some type of way? Allow me to put your mind at ease, okay, about it. I received a call from my mom today, and typically when it comes to my work as far as podcasting, I've only had a few instances where my mother has reached out, and it was a very heartfelt kind of situation each and every time. But what I will tell you is probably a decade ago when I started podcasting for Facebook Live, I said some things and I said them in a very raw way. And my mom called me and she was upset and she was angry. She was kind of tearful at the same time. And she felt judged. And it's not even the judgment of others. It was just like the self judgment that happens, and the feelings just became overwhelming. And so that was one moment. But that moment kinda led to a transition where the truth really did become power, and that power, led to freedom, because once you address the thing, here's the thing about all of us, once we address the thing, whatever it is, once we confess the truth to ourselves, we don't have to say it to anybody else necessarily, but the moment that we sit in it for ourselves is when we truly find relief from it. And so that almost a decade ago was the catalyst to my mom kind of unraveling some of the things and being able to see situations as just what they were, situations. And one moment or even two moments, a series of moments doesn't define all of who you are. Now, you can be the same person you were yesterday and yesteryear, but I venture that most of us want to change. And that's why you are listening to this podcast, because it's all about change and creating conversations for change. But my mom called me to speed this up. My mom called me, well, she sent me a text and she said, I listened to the podcast. Now, I didn't know she was listening. I didn't know she was listening. I kind of put it out to the world and, hope that it makes it to whoever it's meant to go to, with the help of God. I feel like it's doing what it's doing, what it's supposed to do. But she texted me first and then she called, and I was taking a nap. And so once I woke up, I saw her text message, I saw her missed call, and I called her back. And she just answered the phone with such joy and excitement about the episode. And she was like, Son, I listened, I watched, I listened. And let me just say, this was a wonderful episode. Wonderful episode. I'm telling you. And then she took a deep breath, like, because she just couldn't contain her excitement about the episode. And then I said, "Oh, you really liked it?" She said, "Yes, it was so good." She said, "I didn't know if I should cry, and then I laughed at certain parts, but then I wanted to cry." And she said, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm over that. You already know we talked about that." And she was like, "But this was such a good episode. I had to tell you." And she said, "And the memory that came up for you, I remember that." She said, "I remember where we were. We were in Wyoming." And so she's kind of like her memories are jarred, and she's just she's getting excited because she's recalling those moments. She says, "Oh my God, it's so good to hear some of these things." She said, "It really is good to just hear it, even if it's not the best, or I felt like I didn't do the best that I could. I wish I could have done better, but it feels really good to just hear these things and these memories, and the way that you did it was just so powerful." And I'm like, that made my heart full, because I didn't know if she would ever listen to it or not. It didn't really occur to me, so much so. And again, my conversations aren't meant to be salacious. They're meant to be informative and challenging, so that we all can find the truth. settle in it, and then release whatever judgment or whatever, shame or guilt that we feel about it, because that's what it's all about. Letting go of what was and, turning into what will be. And so I wanted to come through and share that intimate moment with you all. And thank you for being a part of the Michael experience. So, if you have not, check out all of the episodes so far for the Hard Truth series and beyond, and get ready for some wonderful series that are coming up about mental health and about men, and how we are as men, and if you're lovers of men, right, it ties into that as well. So get ready for some wonderful series that are coming up. Thank you so much for rocking. And also coming up will be my book, One Day at a Time. I believe that is the title that I am sitting with and going to go with, but One Day at a Time is really my recollection of life, love, and lessons that I've had just over my lifetime so far. And so I'm very glad that God brought me back to this book, because I had been, toying with this idea for probably 20 years. And when I would have experiences, I would jot them down, and I would say, okay, I'm going to outline this book, or I might start this chapter. I'm going to start this chapter. And I wouldn't do it. And so, as I was praying recently, it came to me. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do next? And so the book came up, and I first wanted to start it from where my mind was today, but then something led me to one of my file cabinets, and I opened it up, and there was my, big binder, which had about 20 something years worth of poetry, short stories, and things like that that I had written. And once I started reading my stories, I was like, okay, so how am I gonna blend the past and the present and converge it so that it helps with the future? And so the book came back around. And so originally it was gonna be called Life Lessons. But as I have grown through life, I've kind of carried this mantra that it's just really one day at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time. And so that really stuck and resonated with me. So I am finishing up a book. I've written most of it now. I feel like there's a little bit left to do on it. So that will be happening this year in 2026. But y'all keep your eyes open for more podcast episodes, and also my book, One Day at a Time. I'm telling you, it is going to be a wonderful journey through life, love, and the lessons along the way. All right. So thank you so much for rocking with me, and sticking with me. I'm sure that most of you will, buy the book and support me in every other way that you can, and I appreciate it. If you are looking for ways that you can support right now, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the episode descriptions. And there's also the Platinum Experience exclusively on Apple Podcasts, where you can get your episodes early. So if you want your 2 episodes earlier in the week, you can get those. You can also get the behind the scenes extras and mic drop moments, where I really take you into the work, so that you can get the experience deeper. So thank you so much. And I will see y'all on the next one. Peace and love, y'all. Bye.